and welcome to the first ever Global Impact Virtual Conference hosted by ISTE community leaders. This experience will showcase how remarkable educators worldwide are making a big impact in global education. My name is Kayla Holland, and I am part of the ISTE Community Leaders Global Impact team, joining you today from Charlotte, North Carolina in the United States. I am super excited to be your host for this session titled Thinking Big for a Better Tomorrow, designed for SDGs Sustainability Week, UK. Our presenter for this session is Ivo. He's joining us from Liverpool and is the founder of Innovation X, a big thinking company that provides strategies and tools to schools and edtech companies to innovate in the education space. Before devoting his work to Innovation X, Ivo served as a head of innovation at a number of schools in Dubai and has taught design for 2 decades. Ivo is currently using his passion for education and innovation to drive change and connections through a number of projects, including Design for SDGs, Fusion Magazine, and Quest. And I'm excited to have Ivo join us, and he's going to introduce his co-presenter, Graham. So thanks so much, and I hope you guys enjoy this session.
Thank you, as always, Kayla, for your warm welcome. I hope everything's good over there. Early mornings over here in the UK. It's in the afternoon. I would like to welcome my co-host Graham, who's joining us from the south of the UK, who's going to be sharing a little bit about this journey as well. Sustainability in general, Kayla, in the US, how are you guys doing?
Yeah, so we're doing good. And if you want to go ahead and share your slides, Ivo, we can throw your slides up on the thing. Okay. Sustainability in the US. I said we're doing good because that was my gut reaction. I don't think we're doing good at all. No, that was my thinking too many things at once. No, we need a lot of help over here with sustainability, Ivo. So we'll take all the tips you can give us.
No worries. And if there is anybody out there who is inspired by any of the things that you see or you hear from Graham as well, please feel free to touch base with us. It's always good to connect and share great work. Okay.
Perfect. Well, you share your slides, Ivo, share your screen, and I'm excited to hear about your session. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Thank you so much, Kayla. So I just wanted to spend a bit of time during this session to speak a little bit about Design for SDGs, which is a passion project that started as a teacher in 2016 as a design teacher, and then has turned into something that has become an engagement kind of tool for sustainability in the education space in the UK and beyond as well. During the journey that we've had with Design for SDGs, we've managed to connect with other educators and leaders, and Graham. In a moment, I'm going to reach over to Graham, who's going to share a little bit about how Leo Academy Trust, the school trust that Graham is part of, has played a part in executing Sustainability Week. So let's get straight into this, guys. We started our very first Sustainability Week after doing a number of design challenges over the last few years. We kicked the Sustainability Week off with a global conference. We were joined by over 4,000 students from across the globe, as far as the Philippines, on one side of the globe, with speakers from Australia and New Zealand jumping in, all the way across to the US, where Kayla and the team, some of the team currently are, the ISTE team as well, and countries in between. And that was very much live from Leo Academy Trust. And I'm going to come out of this and go to Graham to allow him to share a little bit about how that went.
Hi, everybody, and thank you for the intro, Ivo. I was just about to say hello from sunny London, and I looked out the window, and it's neither sunny or anything like sunny, but it's dry, so it's not raining, so that's a win. Great to be with you all today. And I think, just to sort of echo Ivo's point really before I start, is I think that, we're all on this journey together, and I don't think that necessarily at Leo we've got this end perfect final solution. But I think what we have got is the most important bit, right? And that's like the enthusiasm and passion to improve. And I think, we were just sort of, talking before we started about this. And actually, it is a big thing, and we're all on this mission together. So I haven't got long, so I'm just going to do a bit of a whistle-stop tour, really, of what happened. But I guess as well, some of our deeper level thinking about why is sustainability on the agenda, right? There's lots of things schools, trusts, districts could be thinking about. So why sustainability? So before I do that, I'll just give a slight bit of context to us. So Leo Academy Trust is a family of 9 primary schools. So that's age 4 to 11 here in the UK. We have an ever-changing number of pupils or students, but it's approximately 5,000, give or take. And of course, supporting those 5,000 pupils are 600 staff. And they clearly, like any school, put a big focus on sustainability. But I think the point I really, really want to make clear here is that, there are 9 schools, but they're very much one family. Like, we've all got our own strengths, we've all got our own weaknesses, we've all got our own challenges, our own communities, our own curriculum, but one group all working together for the benefit of those children. One thing as well I think it's also important to say is that, and I'm sure this is a global issue, not just a UK issue, is around how do you think big, how do you think deep, how do you think beyond this week when it feels like there's so much operational things to do just to keep our schools running? How can I even think about what next year looks like when I'm perhaps thinking about operational decisions about staffing for this week, curriculum for this week, my timetable for this week? And despite those challenges, one of the things we've been working on with the support of Evo and various other people in different ways is around what does Leo 2030 look like? Not for us, not for our staff, but for our pupils. What are we doing now to prepare our children for 2030? And I was just chatting to Evo before this, and I was saying to him, people often say to me, oh, you must have all the answers if you've done that. And we don't. And I think that's really important to say. We're here with the passion, but actually we don't know what the future looks like. We know what we want our children to be, to have, to smell, to taste, to know, to kind of feel. But actually we haven't got all the answers to all those problems. But what's really important is the passion. And as part of Leo 2030, there are a number of strands in that. And one of those is sustainability. And I think that is a really nice dovetail into today, really, about, why is sustainability one of the 5 areas we're really focusing on. And so it was a real privilege and actually honour to host some of the work that went on in Sustainability Week. And thanks to Evo and the team at Innovation X for enabling us to be part of that. It was really cool. It was really fun. It was really inspiring to be part of that first global conference. And not because it means we can say we've been part of this conference, not because, it was quite a fun thing to do, but actually for us, it was about, are we giving children those opportunities to be the child that they want to be? And of course, at Leo, we do loads and loads of different things to kind of help nurture our children. And this was another opportunity where children had that opportunity to do something different, to try and develop skills that perhaps they hadn't used before, or to actually sort of rise above the parapet. That's probably quite a UK term. To rise up and try something that's new or unique to them. So we were delighted, I suppose is right. Well, we were delighted, privileged to host sessions across 3 of our schools. Although we are, one family of schools, like I said earlier, our schools are different. And actually, I think that's really shone through in Sustainability Week. And one of my, I suppose, provocations for everybody here is that there's a time for us to work together, but there's also a time for that uniqueness and that individuality. And I think that's something we saw in Sustainability Week, actually. It was very, very clearly. It was different schools have different priorities. Different schools want to do different things. Different pupils in different schools value different things. And that's not a bad thing. We want to nurture that individuality of our pupils. And that's something that shone through. So that's why it's quite nice to be in different schools. I was really fortunate to be talking to some of our children just online this week, and I was just having a bit of an informal conversation about Sustainability Week and sustainability generally, actually. And I was asking them, what do they get out of it? What's the impact? What's the benefit of this? And one thing that shone through really clearly, and of course, this is absolutely no surprise whatsoever, is that they really valued learning from people around the globe. Here at Leo, we put a big focus on you know, we're local systems, part of a bigger community. So our children are local, but actually we've got a lot to learn from absolutely everybody. And actually just talking to children that said to me things like, there was somebody on our on the webinar that was from, you know, somewhere in India that I've never heard of, and then them going away and thinking, actually, let's use Google Maps or whatever, you know, the mapping tool uses, and let's type that in and let's learn more about that locality. Let's find more. Is it on the coast? Is it not on the coast? Is that a city? Is that a rural environment? Is that an urban environment? And okay, you could argue that that's nothing to do with sustainability, but I don't think that really matters. Like, that was another experience that our children got as part of being out of this program, was, you know, learning about that global world. Another thing that people said to me as well was that actually that they didn't realize how similar schools are. And I think what they were really alluding to is that perhaps they were under the impression that, you know, a school in England is very different to a school in California or a school in India or a school in any, you know, in any country, schooling and perhaps in Kenya, etc. And yet actually there are differences. What we wear might be different, when we go to school might be different, what we teach is different, what the staffing structures might be different, but fundamentally there's actually a lot that's the same. And I think for our children that was really important to them. And then finally, from our child's perspective, this point that we've all got this common goal, we've all got this passion, this interest, this desire to help create a more sustainable future. And actually, by bringing people together, by bringing in, so, you know, authentic children, authentic staff that are living and breathing education daily to solve this problem, was really inspiring for them. So what did this mean for me, I suppose, and what my reflections having sort of been involved in it? And I suppose there were three things that are my takeaways, I guess, for a better expression. And the first is around this idea that there's ripples of impact. So, you know, say you go to a pond or a lake or the sea and you drop a stone into it. There's that immediate response, isn't there? That water flies up or the stone sinks. And the same with this. On Sustainability Week, there was that immediate impact. The child that was learning from someone in India, the child that had the opportunity to discuss with somebody. But then actually, like that stone falling in the water, there are those ripples that slowly spread out further and further and further. And we saw exactly the same with Sustainability Week. I was just chatting to someone on Friday, and they were saying how children were really inspired by Sustainability Week, and we're still talking about it, about what should we do about that. There's a child that said to their principal, their head teacher, that they used to have eco champions, or they used to have sustainable leaders, and that sort of fizzled out a little bit. And actually, how do we resurrect a bit more of energy into that? How do we make that happen? So this idea that there's ripples of impact, and not everything happens straight away. Some things take time. The second was that actually it doesn't matter how big change is positive, or change can be positive. And so there can be big change, there can be small change. And we shouldn't necessarily dismiss those small things that we do. They can be equally as powerful. You as a teacher walk into or you as, you know, whoever, you know, whatever your role is, teacher, pupil, educator, you know, whatever terminology we use, just turning those lights off, just recycling, or just widening our children's knowledge. It might just be a 30-second activity, but actually it can have a huge difference. And not to lose sight of the cumulative effect of all of those small changes. And then my final reflection, and this was shamelessly stolen from that child, but actually was just to say that, not just to remind ourselves all, I suppose, that we've got more similar, we've got more in common than we've got that's different. So there's more things that schools, organisations, children have got that's the same than different, and we should nurture that, and we should really not forget that. We can all learn from everybody. And so just before we come to an end, just sort of something to wrap up is just to think about, it's easy to do things, isn't it? It's easy to go in, print some posters off and put them up on the walls telling people to turn off lights. It's easy to make some sort of infographic to say, you know, have you turned the tap off? But what can we do that is low cost in terms of time and money, but leads to the biggest long-term impact? How can we keep that sustainability piece happening for years to come? I think I've overrun, Evo. I sort of apologise, but don't at the same time. But no, I'll come back to Evo.
It's all right. Thanks. Thank you so much, Graham. And obviously, that's going to add to the story as I continue the narrative on what has been really, from my point of view, the most epic week I've ever had since I started Innovation X almost 3 years ago now. So I'm going to jump back into the presentation. Again, I know Graham's got a few things to do. So if you do want to reach out to Graham, feel free to connect with him. You can see his handle there. He is available on Twitter, along with a whole host of the rest of the Leo team who post very regularly with the work that their school does. Right, I'm going to jump back into this presentation, and let's see where we are here. Okay. So I'm hoping that everyone can see my screen there. Kayla, are we back on with the screen?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, cool.
Looks great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So this is a run through of Sustainability Week. It was extremely busy. We were at Leo Academy Trust with Graham across 3 schools for the global conference. We were across 3 schools every 1.5 hours. We switched from one school, went to another school to get more students involved locally, to co-host with me some of the sessions, and then obviously to directly connect with our global audience. The topics that we discussed, the first 2 sessions were about national ecosystems. The first one was about Australia, and the second one was about New Zealand. And then we went on to talk about, as a group, how to reduce our carbon footprint. We then had a bit of a fun quiz, which was really cool to get students around the world involved in. And then we finished off with a session on how do we basically protect local wildlife. So that's how that went. That kick-started Sustainability Week. You can see here what happened after was we then went to another school in Leo Academy Trust, Brookfield, where we hosted our very first Sustainability Expo. And then we continued with these expos, which showcase a variety of different activities, culminating at the end of the day with this expo showcase. And I'm going to take you through that right now. But that literally took us around the whole of the country. I think from Monday to Friday, where we ended, it was over 1,000 miles on the road. And we pretty much covered almost the whole length of the UK. So very much a road trip, a road show, and something we really, really enjoyed. So here's a couple of examples from Brookfield, actually, just to give you a bit of an idea of what happened there to kick things off. So all of the expos started with having students, the eco team, sharing the school's or the trust's mission. We ended up with some students, real passionate students, talking to not only their own peers, but members of staff, and there were parents who joined at the back as well, addressing them with this idea of where they currently are and what this showcase of activities is going to do to propel the school into the next phase of their strategy. It was just great to see these young change makers take the stage and really kind of put a little bit of passion and enthusiasm behind what is often like a phrase or a statement that's only really featured on a website or possibly on social media every now and then. We really had, in this case, we had like 6 or 7 students that were representing this school-wide message, which is great to hear. After that, we had Poems for Change. So we ended up with students who were very keen to contribute to the expo through poetry. So this was the literacy aspect of the expo. Poems were between 50 seconds to a minute long. Every single school took part in this, and it was just great to see as we travel to different schools. This example that you're going to see in the moment was actually an example by a student in St. George's, which was on the 4th expo on Thursday. I hadn't seen anything like this before. She'd actually gone out into the garden in school, and she'd picked out some foliage, and she'd put it onto her poem, even though I wasn't even aware that people were going to turn their poetry into artwork. There were pieces of artwork that were created to enhance what was being said by the poets. But in this case, this student went about doing it herself, and she just did such a great job. And then there were other students in the class who went about doing something similar. And what this shows straight away is this idea that students are using their own initiative. If I'm going to write a poem about the environment, I should really be connecting the environment directly to it. And she's got the physical manifestation of the subject area that she's talking about with passion, and she's done that herself. And this is what we started to see as we were hosting these expos throughout the UK, that students were approaching things differently, and it just blew us away, really. And their confidence and their ability to be able to share their message, it just showed that they really care about the environment and where they're going. The message is very strong within their generation. That was followed by this kind of activity for students who are a little bit more practical and hands-on and creative, to want to use renewable, recyclable materials, cardboard boxes, cereal boxes, milk bottles, so on and so forth, to come up with their own prototypes for innovations that they feel could change the world. These examples that you're going to see are actually from ATC Multi Academy Trust, which was yesterday. On like their inventions and the way they explain them, they just blew us away, really. It was just, I don't even know how to explain it. It was like they knew that what they were doing had the chance that they could make a difference. And again, it was a very open brief. And this is what we ended up with. We ended up with a student creating their own hedgehog house, an actual practical, real life size hedgehog house. And they spoke about how they'd camouflaged it with leaves and sticks. They'd used the recycled wood that was taken, I think it was from like a pallet. And they'd made sure that things were rounded, so it was a safe environment for hedgehogs. And they'd also measured like the size of it and the average size of like a hedgehog that you'd find in the UK. Like really, really, really clever. Like it just blew us away. It was just so good how they did it. Here's another example, a scaled down version of a car that has X-ray vision. It's got a blue shovel at the front that digs up rubbish and collects up dirt. And this whole idea is that this vehicle that they prototyped here using, it looks like some kind of like what's it called? Like strawberry sauce bottle, you know, like it's about 20 centimeters long, and then obviously fashion the wheels out of lids. But they really went to town on how fast it would go, why it went that speed, what made it sustainable, how it was powered, and what it would do, why it was brightly colored. It just blew us away. Again, another example was this wildlife bug house. They wanted to create a safe place for bugs. Again, very much a working prototype. Safe place for bugs, recycled plastic bottles that you can obviously see there. They'd use natural materials to, again, create this natural camouflage around the actual product itself. Again, and just the way they spoke about it. I mean, you've got to bear in mind, these students that spoke about this project, they were 10 years old. So they were 10 years old talking about how other students could create their own versions of this as a kit. You know, it's just amazing to see students come to life in that way. This is an example of a dual filtered water bottle. So again, very much decorated from a sustainability theme. 2 filters to clean water. The whole idea was that you could collect water. You could collect, technically, you could collect rainwater, and the filters would clean the water, and then it would be usable, drinkable. Recycled materials obviously was a big theme across the range of innovations, and then portable for filtered water on the go. So this idea that it was something that could replace your water bottle itself. Again, really, really well explained, and very much something that I can see that could make an impact on the market. And then the last innovation that we're going to feature here was called the Purifier, a loving home for birds. This idea that it would take in air as well, and it would change the air, take out the carbon dioxide, and kind of kick out oxygen. It's got the safe toxins that kill germs and bacteria. So it's like a birdhouse that also kind of represents this idea of creating a clean ecosystem for birds. And they made it available globally. They really wanted to make sure that anyone who was listening to their pitch knew that this was something that could be purchased globally, which again swings us back around to the global conference, connecting with students, connecting with a global community, so we can all create change. Again, we couldn't showcase all of them. I've just picked out some of the examples there, but again, a lot of innovations across those schools, and a great opportunity for students to showcase what they felt passionate about. So really good job by our innovators there. We then we tasked students to get hold of some unused clothing from home, whether that be their clothing or be their sibling, like an older sibling's clothing. And the whole idea here was to have a closer look at fast fashion, and this idea that consumerism really is taken over. I used the example when I was speaking to one of the classes about how many shoes they've currently got. And I said that when I was their age, I only had 2 pairs of shoes. I had a pair of trainers that I played sports in, and I had a pair of shoes for school. I think I had a pair of football boots as well, but I only really wore them when I was playing in football matches. So 2 general pairs of shoes. We then went around the classroom and we asked how many students had more than 2 pairs of shoes. Keep your hand up, keep your hand up. And we went all the way up, and we ended up with a few students in the class that had 16 pairs of shoes. So even if when you look at that, consumerism's just gone way off. They've got 8 times, a single person's got 8 times more shoes than what I had, just because they can afford it. But that doesn't necessarily mean they should. And the same thing goes for fast fashion. Just because it means you can afford it, it doesn't necessarily mean you should have it, because you're really adding to that vicious cycle of the more that gets bought, the more that companies manufacture. And you end up with, as everybody knows, this closet full of clothing, half of which you don't end up wearing, or you wear only a handful of times, and then gets discarded. So we ended up with these students who really took different pieces of fashion and turned it into new items. They did this catwalk, and then towards the end of the week, we started to notice that some of the students were theming the clothes that they were actually producing. So we ended up at St. George's on Thursday. We ended up with the catwalk fashion show having all 4 seasons. So we had a spring collection with about 6 students who came in with their spring collection clothes, and they were kind of posing and talking about how they'd done that and why it was suitable for spring. We also had this summer collection, and there was students with their sunglasses on, and it was just cool just to see a bit more sass about them. And then we went into autumn. We ended up with students starting to wear things that were a bit more covered on the arms, long sleeves, jeans, and so on and so forth. And then we had a few items that went into this idea of a winter collection. So you can even see our original idea, which was just to have a fashion show that illustrated creativity with reusable, repurposed clothing. By day 3 of the expos, that had completely evolved into having a full fashion show, where students were actually a lot more in tune with what they were going to wear and why at a particular time of the year. Again, just amazing to see. And they'd done that. They'd asked us, can we do this in the expo? And we're like, sure, let's do it. Let's change the program. And it just worked really well. Again, great examples of students pushing boundaries and taking a bit of notice on fast fashion itself and understanding a bit more about why you should really try to be a bit more conscious as a consumer when it comes to purchasing your own items. We then ended with a Better World performance. This was there were 2 performance videos that the Edge team at Innovation X had produced. They had images of planet Earth in the background, and then they had this kind of like calm music for the first video that was 3 minutes long, and then for the second video it was called the Tribal Remix, and it had this like kind of calm music. Then that kicked into this kind of quite energetic tribal themed anthem, and we ended up with schools using both in various ways. One of the most outstanding examples was yesterday's at ATC Trust. They used the tribal mix, but instead of it being what we expected, which was going to be possibly a student speaking for 10 seconds, the music going up, and whilst there was this music, you'd end up with this kind of illustration of drama, dance, and movement to the music as we saw the images in the background. What happened yesterday, which they just flipped the script and they didn't use the video at all. They actually only used the music, and the first half was created as a drama piece with props, large kind of fish items on sticks that were made. It was an underwater scene. There was a bit of a narrative there. There was like water that was created as a movement with this like blue felt where students were like waving it up and down at the front. And they spoke about trash and ocean trash being in the water. And then as they stepped off the stage, the dance group then came in and then finished it off. Again, just blew us away with their creativity and really showed how much they care about taking things to the next level. If they're performing something, they wanted to do it in a way that was going to really create an impact. The last school, so there's the trust that we worked with yesterday, they actually had 2 schools. So again, this was the first time an expo was with 2 schools at the same time. They had 2 school year groups from their trust. One was hosting, and then the other school came over, the other trust came over, school in the trust came over, and their group worked on activities at the same time. But the performance was done together, and that's what I thought was really neat. One school did the first part, and then that gently faded into the second school taking charge of the second part, but it looked like one single performance. Again, completely blew us away, and another way of illustrating how students care about the environment and conservation through drama, art, and dance. This then we ended the expos with these pledges, this idea of taking action. We very much can be good at talking about projects, making projects focus on a particular week or a particular month, but then we tend to find that things drop off a little bit. You know, Graham mentioned before that eco teams fade out a little bit when they don't have things to focus on. And then other things obviously crop up and become more important. How do we as an organization, we were very keen to put in place this idea that if you were hosting an expo, we were going to leave you with something that would help you continue the journey for the next 12 months until the next Earth Day, until the next Sustainability Week, where we could possibly revisit. So these are the initiatives that we've come up with. They're really our sustainability goals for the Design for SDGs Vision 2030. And these are the ones that we're going to be working with schools on. So these are the main 4 goals: reducing our carbon footprint, rethink how we manage waste, conserve our energy usage, and protect our environment. So they're the 4 main goals that we've got for 2024. For 2025, we're going to add an additional goal. And the whole idea is that we work with schools on this together. And then these are the pledges that we spoke about as overall ways to communicate. And you can see there how they connect directly to the SDGs. So reducing your carbon footprint, SDG 3. We pledge to create projects. So we do as an organization to help our school. So it should be not school, but help our schools reduce their carbon footprint. Rethink how we manage waste, inspiring students to think about new ways to reduce waste, conserve our energy, introducing ideas to reduce energy consumption in our schools, protect our environment, pledge to create new learning opportunities to help students understand the nature around them. And you can see how they directly connect to the UN SDGs as well. So the reason, sorry, that they're worded a little bit off was because they were written for schools, but we'd obviously created our own from an initiative point of view. This was then created and put into place for every single school that had an expo. And we'd created this large 1 meter by 3 meter banner that has the school's name on it. We had schools putting them directly up after their expo outside the school, displaying it. We had schools, you can see the bottom cloud in the bottom right hand corner, just above the Innovation X logo. That cloud is for schools to sign. So the head teacher and the eco team to sign their pledge. To say that they're obviously working together for a better tomorrow. And this is kind of what it looked like. So Brookfield Primary Academy, this is the eco team that you saw at the very beginning. And this is them standing with their pledge banner. Again, a great physical manifestation of the promises that school is making to make a change, and for us and for ourselves as a company and as Design for SDGs as an initiative. So how do we do this practically? They're very big goals. So for this year, we were really keen to make sure that we shaped our vision. So our vision, 2030 vision, is to partner with schools like yours and anyone else out there who's listening to this, and also education partners. We aim to inspire 1 million students by 2030 to take action for a better tomorrow. Okay, so this was something that we initially spoke about last year, and then we shaped around the same time as we delivered the second design challenge finals at BET this year in London. And everything we've done so far adds to this goal of inspiring 1 million students. And we're hoping to continue to do that with these practical pledges. So the pledges that we've got directly linked to, so let me just take you back. So they directly linked to being practical in the sense of making sure things can happen. So the first one is to reduce your carbon footprint. We are going to host a number of eco travel Tuesdays. So we're going to work with the first initial 4 schools that we've hosted expos at, and we are going to organize 8 eco travel Tuesdays throughout the year. Obviously, a few less in the winter and the autumn, and a few more in spring, and then obviously more so in summer. And they're going to be on Tuesdays, and the whole idea is that parents may walk to school or parents may carpool and bring other kids on the way, reducing traffic and reducing their carbon footprint as a community. Rethink how we manage waste. We've come up with this idea called Waste Revolution, and we're going to be monitoring food waste within those schools with the idea that we can help them reduce food waste through practical activities and habits by both the staff and the students. And we're aiming to reduce food waste in the first year by at least 15% in those schools. Conserve our energy. We're going to be working with schools on Power Down Fridays. We've come up with a range of initiatives on how schools can basically start to power down their machines at either an hour or an hour and a half before the Friday, before their last day of the week finishes. That stops people from accidentally leaving their computer on. It stops people from leaving their screens on, but it also means that we're helping students kind of power themselves down away from electronic devices. So we're helping them have a better sense of well-being going into the weekend. And then protect our environment. We are developing a series of sessions on Wednesdays, one Wednesday a month called Wild Wednesdays. And we're going to be teaching students virtually about local, national and international wildlife and the environment with the hope that they understand a bit more about what's around them and how they can protect it. So they're the practical things we're doing for 2024. And like I said, in 2025, we're hoping to revisit these schools and any other schools that obviously join our journey this year, revisit them and then reset the pledges, add another goal, and then we continue our journey with monitoring and inspiring action. So I'm just going to finish off with my learnings from Sustainability Week. So based on this epic week that was just full of fun and learnings and interaction with the students. And the very first thing I learned was that there's lots and lots of events that take place and initiatives to do with sustainability, but they're very much in isolation. They take place for a week and then they get forgotten about, or they take place for a day and then they get forgotten about. Can we change that? Okay. And this is obviously part of our goal with these pledges, these year-long pledges, and then monitoring them with the schools that we work with. The second thing is students really care. We had this exercise where we were talking to the students about what they wanted to be when they grow up. And a lot of the students spoke about helping others and helping the world become a better place. And that's what they want to do when they grow up. Very different to the way we looked at ourselves when we were their age. And the third thing is clearly we need to be more sustainable about sustainability. Sustainability is about longevity of the human race. And the whole idea is if we can't create projects that we keep going, we can't really meet that goal. So creating a vision like the 2030 vision gives you a focus that's in the future, and you know that you've got these goals to meet because you're aiming for something over there. There's no real finish line until you get to that point, which is obviously in our case at the moment 6 years away. So can we do something like that? What are the things coming up for Design for SDGs and Innovation X? We're going to be soon launching our third Design Challenge, UK Design Challenge, the 2025 Design Challenge. It's going to be, again, we've been welcomed back to Bet for the finals, which is awesome. So thank you very much, Bet, for that. We're going to be working with some schools in India for their second version of the Design Challenge in India after hosting the very first one about 4 months ago. And then hopefully any other audiences here, we would love to connect with you on hosting a design challenge in your country as well. Let's keep these things global. I'll also be at ISTE Live talking about some of the findings here and the further work that we're doing to promote sustainability and action across the year, guys. Just want to leave you with this photo that was taken, and this pretty much encapsulates what was going on with the expos at these schools. This was taken at Barrowford School. It was our second expo day on Wednesday, Just so much passion and enthusiasm for the activities that we're doing. This was right at the end. And there were all these kids high-fiving and jumping in. It was just great. And that's what it's about, guys. When we do things, it's all about working together to make a difference. Whatever you do, keep working, keep tuning up to things, keep showing up, because the students that we're working with really need us to help them tune their passions for creativity and change, to become change makers for a better tomorrow, guys. So thank you so much for listening. I've really enjoyed presenting to you guys. And if there is anybody who's interested in learning more, please feel free to connect with me on Twitter or through the community. Kayla.
Yeah. Ivo, that was incredible. Thank you so much. I think you just made this huge idea of sustainability around the globe just really accessible, right? There are these little things that I can do. And I love Dominic in the chat was like, now you have everyone counting how many shoes we have, right? And I may have a few more than 10 or something like that. but yeah, I love that. And your 4 ideas at the end were so great. The carbon footprint, I wrote them down: the manage waste, conserve energy, protect environment. As a classroom teacher, I think those are some really easy ways we can address sustainability in the classroom, like, turning lights on and off, managing our waste just at school, and talking about, how much paper we're using, things like that. So I loved it. Thank you so much for this session. Ivo, if we want to sign up for these initiatives, where do we do that? How do we get connected to you to sign up for some of these initiatives, either personally or for our classroom?
It is so fast, Kayla, like Sustainability Week. I mean, I remember speaking to you about Sustainability Week when we first spoke about it a couple of months ago. So it is just so quick. The easiest thing to do, guys, is if you jump onto my Twitter, which is that handle there, you'll see all of the info. Send me a DM or comment on something or whatever it is. We're more than happy to share bits and pieces or connect with you in your school community. And otherwise, also we have an opportunity to meet at ISTE Live in Denver at the end of June.
Yes, where you may or may not be a presenter for the Global Collaboration Playground. So you can definitely see him there if you don't connect with him before. But Ivo, I think we'll post some of your stuff too on the ISTE Community Leaders page and on Connect, and so we'll make sure your information and links are out there. But if you're interested in joining this idea, just get connected to Ivo and make sure you're signing up. So again, thank you so much, Ivo, for this incredible session on sustainability. And thanks to everyone in the chat for participating in this discussion today. Yeah, whether you're watching us live or you're watching this as a recording, we're just so grateful that you're tuning in with us. We'd love to know what you learned from this session. So scan the QR code on your screen or click the link in the chat to access our digital template. And you can share your takeaways from this session on social media using the hashtags Global Impact and ISTE Global. You can tag us, you can tag Ivo. That might be the best way to get connected to him, and he can reply with some of these ways we can sign up. As we wrap up this live session, here are a couple of ways you can continue collaborating with us. Like Ivo mentioned, some of us are going to be at ISTE Live in June in 2024 in Denver. So if you haven't registered yet, we encourage you to register today. If you are going to be live and in person with us in Denver, be sure to check out the Global Collaboration Playground on Wednesday. If you would like to connect with us virtually, join us on Connect, which is a virtual space to share and collaborate in a digital forum. You can register for free, even if you are not an ISTE member, so definitely join us on Connect, and let's continue that conversation on global collaboration. Finally, another initiative of our ISTE Community Leader Global Team is the Featured Educator Initiative. We select 2 educators per month to be featured on our social media pages, just to highlight the incredible work that educators are doing around the world. So nominate yourself, nominate someone you know. If you go to our website, all of these are listed under the Future Events tab. There also are some links being placed in the chat. So I hope to see you at one or all of those. I'd also like to shout out some of our pre-recorded sessions. There are almost 50 individual pre-recorded sessions on our website in addition to our live content happening today. You do not want to miss some of these recorded sessions. There are incredible conversations and topics that have been curated specifically for you today. So you can locate these by clicking on our pre-recorded sessions button on the live sessions page from the website. Thanks again for joining this live session with Ivo Hannan from Liverpool on sustainability from our whole ISTE Community Leader Global team, which I'm going to, there we go. We're adding them to our screens now. Hello, team. There's a lot of us on backstage making this happen for you today, including Cami, Margaret, and John. So from our whole ISTE Community Leader team, we hope to see you at our next live session happening in just 10 minutes with Dr. Shahinaz Osman, and she's presenting on AI and conflict resolution. So see you guys in 10 minutes.